Does anybody have any questions about anything?
Another question is
Coursework 2?
We've got different countries and the time span of each country is different.
Yeah.
How should I handle this? Some in Sweden, some in they all appear.
Well, you can choose a visual design that reflects the time of each country. So imagine, in some ways, there's no special handling necessary. Because imagine you're looking at the stock market, right? Some companies have different durations, like Apple is older than Square, but you can still visualize both of them, right? It's just that Apple starts earlier than Square. So there's no special handling required, I would say. You can just make sure that the differences are reflected in the visualization and in the image in the end. Another possibility is to see if you can find more data to supplement those gaps. That's another possibility. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, so everybody probably noticed all the courseworks are on the Moodle page now. Coursework 1, Coursework 2, and Coursework 3. Coursework 3 is not 100% finished, but it's probably like 90% finished. And today's workshop is about Coursework 2. We already did have one workshop on DataViz. And we're having another one. This one is experimental, another experimental one, and I hope that you guys find this educational, like I'm hoping to. That's strange. When I use PowerPoint, the screen changes. That's very strange. Okay, I'm going to use PDF then. So, has anybody tried DALL-E yet? Okay, good. If you haven't tried it yet, then today you're going to try it. So, surprise, surprise, step 1 is to form groups and start a Google Doc. Can you also add your names to the top of the Google Doc? I kind of forgot that in previous weeks. Review Coursework 2, which is on the Moodle page. And then you brainstorm visual designs of how to represent the data in Coursework 2. So you're just thinking what could this look like, right? And if you want some ideas about how to do that, you can Google Dear Data and then click on images for many examples of this. Dear Data is a project where 2 women sit around and they just draw data. Like that's what they're doing with pens and pencils and crayons and markers and paintings, right? Then you sketch 1 or 2 visual designs for Coursework 2 manually, right? You can do this. You can do this using any piece of software you want, like Sketch.io, Figma, PowerPoint, MS Paint, anything, any sketch program you want, you can choose. And if anybody wants, I even brought markers. You can draw here on the board. that's fine. And in fact, I'm thinking about drawing one that I would like to see. I can draw one for you guys if you want. That I think would be good for coursework too. Make sure your designs are clearly labeled with axis labels and a color legend. You take a screenshot of that or a picture of that and you put it in the Google Doc, right? Your best one or two from the team. Then you try DALL-E 2. See if you can use DALL-E 2 to generate an image for you for coursework 2. See if you can do it. That's the experiment. So DALL-E 2 is another huge AI sensation right now. If you haven't heard about it, it's a huge sensation right now, just like ChatGPT, but it generates images. It doesn't generate text. So you input text into DALL-E, and then it outputs images. It's very fascinating. Like it's really, really interesting. And then the question is, can we use that for coursework too? Could you get some visual design, some image that is interesting and useful for coursework too, using DALL-E? So you experiment with that, and when you think you have something interesting, like the best image, after, I guess you test it out maybe 10 times or something, get 10 images. Choose the best one, and then insert that into your Google Doc. And then put it, and then submit your Google Doc. So can DALL-E 2 generate labeled axes and color legends, for example? Is that even possible with DALL-E? And by the way, the best group gets a prize today. I thought I would spice it up a little bit. So the best one will get a prize. I might not be able to announce the prize, the best one, right during the lecture. I can try. But this time the best group entry gets a prize, yeah. And then your Google Doc at the end contains your group member names, 1 to 3 manual sketches with the name of the program you used, if you used software, and then 1 to 3 DALL-E images. And then share your Google Doc with me. This is just an example, by the way, of hand-drawn data visualizations. People taking out a pencil and paper and just drawing some nice visual designs of actual data, by the way. This is real data. This is the kind of thing you see if you Google Dear Data and then look at the hand-drawn sketches. There are flaws with these, by the way. Does anybody know what the flaws are? Can anybody see the flaws? Like, this would not get distinction in coursework too. Like, this wouldn't. I would deduct points for something here.
No label.
Nice. Very nice. No labels. I have no idea what I'm looking at here. There's no x-axis label. There's no y-axis label. There's no color legend anywhere, so I actually have no idea what I'm seeing. But if you know, in your sketches, you actually want to have labels and maybe a color legend or something like that. Yeah. Any questions about that? Does it sound interesting, like fun? And then I will also give you an idea. I will hand draw something here and give you an idea, but I'm not going to do that at the beginning. Okay, should I put everybody into a group then? Into groups? That sounds good. So I think the 5 of you can be in a group. Yeah. Maybe 4 of you. 4 of you. You have a group you want to do that? Okay, that's fine. So So how about we do yeah. You can also, adjust the groups. I'm only doing this, to get things moving. I don't really care who's in which group. And if you have questions, just let me know. Oops. Has anybody looked at Coursework 2 yet?
Yeah.
So by the way, Coursework 2 has a template again. I love templates, right? I love them. It's because templates are a useful way to organize things, aren't they? They're a useful organizational tool, especially for information. So you're following this template, and basically I'm going to score you based on this template, right, for Coursework 2. And you're just generating an image. And there are some supplementary files there. I wanted to add a note, actually. Hint. You can compare mortality rates of 2020 with previous years. That's a possibility as one of your observations, as one of your insights or observations. And like I said, if anybody wants, they can just draw stuff on here. It's fine. These markers. And take a photo. Yeah, it would be great if you could join that group. So Coursework 2 is basically to just generate a nice visualization of the mortality data set, right? So it's here. Human mortality database. It basically has a collection of countries and their mortality rates over historical mortality rates. So you don't have to, you know, visualize the entire data set, right? You might choose, you know, 5 countries to compare, for example. And of course, you're going to choose your own country and see how it compares to other countries. You know, maybe you can discover like that your own country is, I don't know, has a longer average lifespan than some other country. Right? Or maybe you discover that some area you live in, the people live a shorter life. Right? Does anybody know which countries have kind of a reputation for long lifespans? Japan? Yep, that's right. Any other ones? Italy, especially southern Italy. These two places seem to have, I don't know, I mean, those are just rumors, right? I've never looked at that data, actually. So now we can actually look at the data and see what it's like. So to plot this using a real tool like Excel or something is going to take time. It's going to take more time than what you have in this workshop. So that's why this workshop is just sketching ideas. It's like, okay, I have this idea of how I think it could look, and then you sketch the idea that you have. You know what I mean? And then the same thing with DAL-E. You try to get DAL-E to produce an image of the idea you have. That's the goal of this workshop. It's brainstorming ideas, you know, from sketches to artificial images. And then if you can recreate that artificial sketch or image with real software, that would be cool for coursework too. By the way, there was a very famous presentation on mortality by country. It's a very famous presentation. Has anybody heard of that before? Hans Rosling. Has anybody heard of Hans Rosling? He was Swedish. He gave a very famous presentation on mortality by country. There it is, by the way. This is the famous presentation.
Told me about 50 years ago. It was a divided world. It looked like this. Each bubble is a country. Size is population. Blue, Africa. Red, Asia. Yellow, Europe. And green, the Americas. Vertical is child mortality, from 30% of children dying before the age of 5 down to almost zero child death. Horizontal, number of babies born per woman, from 8 to less than 2. But most countries were up here. Women had 6 to 7 children. Child deaths were frequent. Almost every family lost one or more children. In many people's mind, the world still looks like this, developing and developed. But it's a myth, because the world has improved immensely in the last 50 years. Here we go. Year by year, child mortality fell in almost all countries, and as child mortality fell, women chose to have fewer and fewer babies, and that enabled them to invest more time and resources in each child. By 1990, some of the so-called developing countries had already made it down here. Some were in between, and a few remained up here with very high child mortality. Ethiopia had hardly moved at all. It had passed through decades of famines and political turmoil. Many people think that Ethiopia is still stuck up here, but look what happens after 1990. With improved access to health service in rural areas and well-spent aid, child mortality falls dramatically in Ethiopia. And with better access to family planning, women choose to have fewer and fewer babies. Ethiopia has come halfway and is moving quickly down to this corner. But Ethiopia still faces many challenges. I will split the Ethiopian bubble. The capital, Addis Ababa, is already down here. But the remote Somali region of Ethiopia still have high child mortality. But most of the regions, 90% of the population, are centered around the average. Most people think that the problems in Africa are unsolvable. But if the poorest countries can just follow the path of Ethiopia, it's fully possible that the world will look like this in 2030. Then there will be no countries left in the box we once called the developing world. But to ensure that that happens, we must measure the progress of countries. It's only by measuring we can cross the river of myths.
That's actually not the presentation, but it's pretty close. There's another one that's more famous than that one. Question? That might be the one, yeah. Yeah, I think that's the one, yeah. That's right. I think it's the one where he's presenting the time versus lifespan, average lifespan. That's the more famous one, actually. Yeah. If you could join the group. Any groups accepting members still? You have a group that you want to join? guys.